February 24, 2010. Tillicum, all 12,000 pounds of him, had already killed before, twice. And SeaWorld knew. The internal memos existed. The incident reports existed. The paper trail was sitting in filing cabinets inside the same building where trainers showed up every single morning trusting that someone had read them. Marina Lysaro was one of those trainers. And if you think you already know this story, stay with me. Because the version most people know is missing the part that matters most. Stick with me, because that part is exactly where we're going. Marina didn't fall into this career. She built it from nothing. At 16, she was volunteering at a marine park in Valencia, Spain, hauling fish buckets, scrubbing tanks, doing the invisible work that nobody films and nobody applauds. She did it every day for 2 years before anyone let her near the water with the animals. Most people would have walked away after week 1. Marina treated it like tuition. By her mid-20s, she had logged more in-water hours with orcas than almost anyone working in Europe. Colleagues, speaking to marine industry outlets in the years following the incident, described her consistently as instinctively gifted, someone who understood animal behavior at a level that went beyond training. Management valued her. Crowds responded to her. She was exactly the kind of trainer facilities build their reputations around. But here is what nobody reported. 3 times in the 4 years before the incident, Marina formally flagged behavioral changes in the male orca she worked with most closely. 3 written reports, filed through the correct channels, acknowledged by supervisors, stamped and shelved. Not one of those reports triggered a protocol review. Not one changed her assignment. She kept showing up anyway, because this was the life she had built since she was a teenager, standing in Valencia, doing work nobody else wanted. That loyalty would become the most tragic detail in this entire story. Before I go further, I want to ask you something real. Do you think institutions protect their people? Or do they protect themselves first and call it the same thing? Drop your answer below. I read every comment. The paper trail didn't lie. After the incident, investigators obtained internal safety assessments dating back nearly a decade. What they found wasn't a surprise to everyone, because some people inside these facilities had been saying it out loud for years and being quietly ignored. A 2008 internal review, later cited in OSHA case file number 309152822, flagged escalating stress behaviors in captive orcas across multiple facilities. Repetitive circling, tooth grinding against concrete tank walls, unpredictable aggression during sessions that had previously been routine. The review recommended immediate protocol changes. It was filed, noted, and left exactly where it was. What makes this worse is what came next. According to accounts from former staff members later interviewed by investigators, senior management had discussed, more than once, the idea of reassigning certain trainers away from direct contact with specific animals showing these stress patterns. Those conversations happened in meeting rooms. They were remembered clearly by the people who sat in them. Marina's name came up in those conversations, not because she lacked skill, but because the animal she worked with most closely was displaying behavioral patterns the facility didn't have adequate systems to manage. And instead of changing the assignment, instead of pulling back and reassessing, the sessions continued. Because the show schedule existed. Because tickets had been sold. Because the machinery of a live entertainment operation doesn't pause easily for internal safety concerns that haven't yet become public ones. The session on that final day started like every other one. Witnesses described the opening minutes as completely routine. Marina was running a standard behavioral sequence, hand signals, and reward patterns she had executed hundreds of times with this animal. The crowd was in their seats. The background music was running at its normal level. Nothing in those first few minutes suggested what was coming. Then everything changed. What followed is reconstructed from witness statements, facility camera footage, and the formal OSHA investigation completed later that year. Investigators established a timeline of approximately 12 minutes from the moment of first contact to the point when staff were finally able to intervene. 12 minutes. That number sits differently the longer you think about it. The initial contact happened during a poolside interaction, not an in-water session. That distinction matters enormously, because the interaction-type Marina was performing at that exact moment sat in the lowest risk category the facility's own safety framework recognized. She was following the rules. She was following all of them. According to testimony from 3 witnesses present on the pool deck, the staff emergency response was slowed significantly by confusion over procedure. Who held authority to act? Which specific protocol covered this exact scenario? How the chain of command was supposed to move in real time under those conditions? By the time those questions got answered, it was over. If you want to understand how deep this rabbit hole actually goes, and I promise you, it goes much deeper than this, hit subscribe right now. Next week, I'm covering what happened inside SeaWorld's executive offices in the months after this incident. There's one name in that story that will genuinely surprise you. The public statement arrived within hours. Carefully constructed, full of grief language and tribute and promises of thorough review. The kind of corporate communication that is designed to feel like transparency while functioning as the opposite. And while that statement was being drafted and approved and sent to media outlets, a parallel conversation was already running inside legal. According to documents later surfaced through the OSHA proceedings, internal communications in the 48 hours immediately following the incident were heavily focused on liability architecture. What the facility was legally required to disclose, what it wasn't, how the sequence of events should be characterized publicly. The framing that emerged placed notable weight on trainer error. A detail about hair positioning near the water. A suggestion of inattention at a critical moment. Former colleagues did not accept that framing quietly. In interviews with the Orlando Sentinel and later with the production team behind Blackfish, multiple staff members described a workplace culture where safety concerns moved upward through the organization and then stopped, absorbed into a system that had a structural interest in not acting on them. And honestly, this part hits differently, because most of us have trusted a workplace or an institution completely, given it years, flagged problems through the right channels, and watched those concerns disappear into a process designed to protect the organization first. You don't need to be a trainer at a marine park for that experience to leave a mark. If it has ever happened to you, you already understand exactly what Marina's colleagues were carrying when they watched her story get rewritten in real time. The question nobody asked loudly enough afterward wasn't what went wrong on that specific Tuesday. The question was what had been going wrong for years, inside every tank, across every facility, throughout an entire industry built around animals that travel up to 100 miles of open ocean every single day in the wild. Dr. Ingrid Visser, one of the foremost orca researchers working today, has spent decades documenting the behavioral gap between wild and captive orcas. Her findings, published across peer-reviewed marine biology journals, identify captivity-induced stress responses that map directly onto the behaviors Marina had been formally reporting for 4 years. The tooth grinding, the repetitive circling, the escalating unpredictability during sessions that should have been routine. These behaviors were not random aggression. They were a communication that the system around them was not designed to receive. Blackfish brought this science to a mainstream audience in 2013. SeaWorld's attendance fell. Their stock dropped nearly 60% between 2013 and 2016, according to Forbes market reporting. In 2016, they announced the end of theatrical orca performances. By 2019, the program was officially closed. Real change. Documented and measurable. And yet captive orca operations continue in facilities across the world. The conversation, Marina's death, accelerated hasn't finished. The tank walls are still standing in places the documentary cameras never reached. She filed 3 reports. She showed up every day. She followed every protocol on the last day of her life. The system she trusted had every piece of information it needed to protect her. It made a different choice. Now, I told you this story gets darker. The video dropping next covers what happened in SeaWorld's boardroom in the months after this incident. One name in that story you will not see coming. Click here. Watch it now. You'll understand immediately why I saved it for last.